Storytime with Angi'O. Now you guys, someone was doing my makeup today and she was like, oh gosh, your skin is so nice. And I just thought to myself, wow. I also have a friend who keeps saying, but Angela, your skin is so nice, your skin is so nice. And I remember a time in my life when my skin was terrible. Like after I wash my face, before like I put anything, it would be dry and I would have dry patches. And I struggled so much with my skin, my face, and sometimes my shoulders, which are now looking, nice. I had issues with my skin. And I remember I would buy like skin stuff that would be like, for combination skin, for dry skin. Then I realized, wait a minute. I'm going to start buying stuff for normal skin because I've spoken healing over my skin. So I started buying stuff for normal skin. I stopped stressing about the type of soap I use. If I use bath soap, if I use whatever soap, I told myself that anything works on my skin. And my skin was healed. My skin was healed. My husband, at some point, wanted to cut off his toe. Why did he want to cut off his toe? Now, he used to feel pain in his toe, like pain, unbearable pain. And it got to the point where he's like, do you know what? The only way this pain is going to go is if I cut it off. Sometimes he would feel it when he's tired. So he thought, okay, it's a pain that comes from being tired. Then he would make sure he's resting. Then at a certain point, I think he'd been resting for a while and the toe was still hurting. Other times it would come, it would hurt when he's hungry. So he would make sure he never gets hungry. But that stopped working. Guys, his toe would hurt. He got to the point where he went to the doctor. At some point, he sat with a needle and he started poking his toe to see if there was anything inside his toe. Like, is there a thing growing inside my toe? At another point, he went to a doctor and said, just give me the hardest painkiller you can give me in my life. They shot him with painkillers. He probably patched for 2 days. It didn't work until he got to the point where he's like, we were not yet married. So he's like, would you marry me if I was less by one toe? So I was like, you know what? If it's going to take away your pain, you're not made. It's not, your toe does not define you. Of course, in my heart, I'm like, there goes, walks on the beach, barefoot. You have to keep hiding your feet. We spoke over it. And then we don't even know at which point the pain went, but the pain went. I'll tell you about my kids. My son had terrible eczema, like terrible. One of his first words was itching. Those are one of his first words. As a baby, at like 7 months, he was saying itching. Because we kept asking him, is it itching? Then we'd say, stop itching. Would stay up at night because he's crying and scratching himself. So he would scratch himself, draw blood, it gets a wound, it gets whatever, because there's a wound, it would get contaminated or whatever, and then pass. But there's pass and there's more eczema and still itching. So he's, oh gosh, you guys are so stressed. At a certain point, we had to take a passport picture of him. And he'd had a spot there which he had scratched, it had grown past, it had exploded. And so they had to Photoshop his face out to take out the spots. You guys, it was bad. Every night we'd be like, stop itching. And then we'd keep saying, stop itching, stop itching, stop itching. As a child, those were his first words. You guys, his skin, his legs, it was bad. Then one day, we noticed that all of it was gone. My daughter, hey! My daughter used to get coughs, what I thought were coughs. So she would get a cough and she would cough a bit and then she's breathing badly, like breathing really badly, like there's stuff in her lungs. I'm like, oh, this cough is presenting terribly, like a flu. I pray over her, whatever. But my husband, who doesn't usually panic, started panicking a bit more. And I'm like, fathers and their daughters, I mean, it would happen. It happened. I would pray over her. One time we were coming from the village and my daughter had traveled with my sister ahead. So my sister sends a message with some medical language, panicking. sending Emma a message. She's presenting with, I don't remember what the words were. And then at that point, Emma tells her she's going to be fine. I also tell her she's going to be fine because I'm like, she is going to be fine. This has happened before. She breathes really badly and then she's fine. The time I started noticing, okay, maybe there's a bigger issue was when in this whole mix, she's breathing badly, and Emma takes her to the hospital and they give her a nebulizer, you know, and I'm like, okay, you know, to help the breathing. Anyway, long story short, when she's better, I realized that she was asthmatic. I did not know. I only found out when he was testifying that she's now fine. I remember a particular day at home, it was a Thursday. I was at home, I was recording a shoot, singing, and then Emmanuel comes home with her and takes her to the room. Just a funny thing. And I'm like, what happened? So apparently she was at school and she fell over and convulsed. She convulsed. The teachers at school pick her up. They're, you know, pouring water on her, take her to the nearest hospital. They tried to call me, but I didn't pick. Then they called my husband. He rushed from work, went to find them at the hospital. He's so stressed. They've bent her over. They're trying to put a needle through her spine because I don't know what it is that they were trying to do. I don't know. But it was such a stressful situation. And I found out after. At that point, I started getting worried, but I'm like, what's going on? Anyway, you guys, I'm happy to tell you now that she's well. She was asthmatic. I didn't know until my husband was testifying, and she is well. She is well to this day. Like, she's healed. It has not happened in over a year. There's a time she started getting some sniffles, sneezing, and I spoke over her, and she's fine. And I want to tell you, friends, that God still heals today. That God is my healer. That God is your healer. Isaiah Chapter 53 verse 5 says, He was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. You know that picture that you have of Jesus being beaten, those stripes, where they first used sticks, then they used ropes. If you've watched The Passion of Christ, then they got sticks that had nails, that each time he got a wound on his body, each time his skin was torn off his bones from those nails, that was him purchasing your healing. That we have been healed. That God is our healer, and God still heals today. I like what that verse says in the Amplified Version. It says, but he was wounded for our transgressions. He was crushed for our wickedness, our sin, our injustice, our wrongdoing. The punishment required for our well-being fell on him, and by his stripes, wounds, we are healed. Wherever you are, I want you to know that God is your healer, and that there is no sickness too big or no sickness too small. Whether it's a migraine, whether it's a toothache, whether it's cancer. I've had people being healed from cancer. Whether it's asthma, whether it's a thing that you think has been carried on. God is our healer. Thank you.